Hey everybody, welcome to What the Flick. Alonso, Bibbs, Francis. The Flash, episode 6. The Flash is born. We're 6 episodes in. What's with that?
But now he's officially called the Flash.
Oh, I never put that together.
Okay.
Let's take a look at the clip.
I don't know where you came from. I don't know your name. But I have seen you do the impossible.
What exactly did you hit? A man. A big, bad man. How do I fight a guy that's made of steel?
You'd have to hit him at approximately Mach 1.1. You'd create a sonic boom, which, as I've said before, would be...
The Flash, new hit series this Tuesday at 8/7 Central on the CW.
I like this episode. We talked a lot on other shows about how the first 6 episodes of any show is a pilot. And this is the 6th episode, and it feels like they took that literally in this case, and like they've just sort of, we've looking at the voiceover from the first episode, we're giving it to Iris, and we're officially naming the Flash, we're having him get over some of his baggage. This is now this is the show. I feel like that's what this episode is saying. So it's a little repetitive, but it's confirming things, and I like that.
I will say they are upping their game on their final scenes. Because I was really getting tired, like I said, of cutting to Ed going, you know. So now making it about Iris's dad and being about the return of the Reverse Flash, we assume, or whatever, you know, Professor Zoom. So, you know.
There's one thing that made me just squee in my pants, and there's one thing that made me want to poop my pants in this episode. There's 2 things.
One great one. The show with you.
Yeah,
I know. But I want to start with the bad. So you've captured Girder. Girder's your bad guy. You knew Girder as a kid. You have a lot of baggage with him. You want to throw it in his face. Let's just reveal that identity. There's no way that could ever come back to haunt you because he's so well, you know, secured in this maximum security prison.
I had just about forgotten about Super Jail, and then I was like, oh yes, Super Jail. This is so dumb. So, who's feeding them?
My problem with the episode is Meathead Tony. I guess that's what his name. I didn't believe him as a bad guy. I didn't think we got enough motive behind him. I mean,
it felt very kids. Bullying is bad.
Exactly. I mean, like he bullied him as a young kid, and then we kind of just got that one clip. I felt like if we got more of a backdrop to what maybe their relationship could have been a little more serious. I mean, I just think that he going to Iris and trying to get her because of she's writing about the Flash. Yes, I understand that, but to take her captive and go along with it, I just didn't feel that he had enough motive to be a bad guy. And I like to have if it is gonna, that's what makes it feel Monsters of the Week to me, because they're so not. This show doesn't do the Monsters of the Week.
Relax. A little bit.
But I just do. If
it does it better than most.
Yes.
Meta-human of the week.
The reason to overcome this, I think, is if you give a villain more of a believable storyline that people will buy into and they don't just think he's coming on to be bad. I didn't know why he was bad other than he's
a
powers.
jerk.
Yeah, well, I buy that, though. I buy that. I wish it had been explored better and we'd seen what he's trying to prove.
Yes.
Because ultimately, it's not about, he doesn't have a goal. He's not trying to steal a diamond. He's just a douchebag. And if you gave like a total douchebag superpowers, he might act like a douchebag with those powers. And I buy that. Like, even at the beginning, there's one of the opening lines is, what kind of asshole, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, what kind of asshole steals a yellow Humvee? And I'm like, this is that asshole. He has no plan. He's not a mastermind. He's got superpowers and he's on a joyride. I mean, like, yeah, why not? So I kind of dug that. I thought that worked.
Now, okay, I did not watch Smallville, but
You didn't have to.
Right, well, that was kind of my impression of the show. But here's the thing. Now, Smallville wasn't part of the premise of that show. That was that the arrival of of Kal-El's ship not only brought him to Earth, but also mutated a bunch of
all the kryptonite was mutating.
So that's a thing here, right? Yeah. And then Iris is kind of getting into Lois Lane territory here.
Well, she was in the comics as well. And in fact, this episode has quite a few parallels with, I think, particularly the original Richard Donner Superman movie. I mean, we'd looked at, in the previous episode, Iris meeting the Flash for the first time. Yeah. That very much evoked there. There was a Man of Steel joke in this one. Ha ha ha. But here's the thing, though. I actually think this show does it better than that movie. I'm not the biggest fan of that movie. It's incredible in a lot of ways, but one of the things that
you obviously weren't 11 when it came out.
I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that, but one day you're going to be talking to film critics who defend Transformers for the same reason. So think about it. But here's my thing. Here's the reason why. Here's the fundamental reason why that movie never worked for me is because Lois Lane is terrible to Clark Kent. She has no interest. She doesn't care about him at all. The first time you see Lois Lane care about Clark Kent is in Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. That's the thing that drives me nuts. She's always about Superman. Iris, we saw in that previous episode when she met the Flash, and it should have been like all romantic. Oh, I met the superhero. All she wanted to talk about was Barry. She cares about this person even if she doesn't realize she loves him yet, or if she does at all. So all of that stuff, like all of that journey, all of this romantic subplot and everything works better for me in that level. So yeah, it is kind of like Lois Lane, but they're doing it better than most shows have done Lois Lane. So that doesn't really bother me.
I'm just throwing it out there. Again, I didn't watch Smallville, but
fair enough.
Based on what I knew from the show, I'm like, wait, I'm sensing some parallels here.
I wanted to touch on the investigation that's going on between Joe and Dr. Wells. So what's going on with them is that he at first was being nice guy to try and find out if he was going to be investigated or not. Do you think that he buys that Dr. Wells was completely not involved in this? And do we buy it? I don't buy it.
I don't buy it. I think he does at the moment.
Yeah.
He has no reason to suspect time travel yet.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that's probably going to be the catalyst of this, unless there is some other precedent for superhumans before that that we discover. As you said, the whole Large Hadron Collider is the kryptonite of this show. It is what gave everyone their power. So anything preceding that, clearly, there's no reason to suspect anything. So I buy that. I would also like to say,
and in the universe of this show, I don't think a cop is going to go, oh, time travel.
Yes,
right, exactly. That's still a little far-fetched. The punch at the end made my heart sore. I loved that moment. They built it up so nicely, dramatically. They established that there might be serious consequences for it. It wasn't like some big obvious, like, oh, I can just do this super move and there's no problem with it. The slow-mo and everything was very nicely handled.
But he never knocked him out. It took her punch to knock him out. It would have been more effective if he took him out.
After the build-up, I was a little disappointed.
I think Cisco made the same, but he's saying like super sonic punch, baby. He's still my favorite character.
I mean, and he sells it more than the actual sequence does. And because one of the things that I really liked about Superman Returns, a movie that gets a bad rap, I think, is I liked the sonic booms. I liked the fact that every so often Superman would have to dash off and save a plane or something, and there would be a boom. It's like, oh yeah, people don't do that before. You know? And so when they were building up to it on this show, like Cisco was dying to finally have a sonic boom. It was like, great, it's going to be that moment. It was kind of like, well, that was okay.
I'll admit part of the thing that made it work for me was it evoked one of the best damn superhero scenes I've ever seen, which was the first season finale of Justice League Unlimited, where in order to defeat the bad guy, the Flash actually ran around the entire planet to build up momentum. And he did it over and over and over again, and I swear to God, tears in my eyes. It was such a great superhero moment. They did it so well. So by doing it in the small microcosm, I'll admit they just hit this nostalgia thing.
It wasn't my favorite villain, as I stated at first, but I did like Barry's motive to get back at the villain. I liked how he was kind of taking emotion to the next level and just going based on emotion, because you see the scene sometimes in superheroes where they get beat once and then they'll come back and beat him again, but he got his ass kicked a few times and he was very, like, there was that one moment.
And by that guy.
Yeah, by that guy, the same guy. And there was that one moment where he was in Star Labs and the two Misfits of Science come back in and they actually were worried for him, and that's what I like in superheroes, that they're vulnerable and not they're unbreakable, because he was. So there's some stakes to the risk, because she sells it. I don't really think she's that good of an actor, Misfit of Science #1, but she does sell her worry for Barry. Like, I do feel as if she's genuinely worried for him and that you could break every bone in your body. So in that area, I just wish they developed the villain to want to be more of a, like, why he wants to be more of a villain rather than just some people want to watch the world burn. That's what I felt from him.
And I think
we're focusing on the hero a lot.
And I think we're at least getting some interesting directions with Iris, at least, of somebody finally having the conversation. Oh, by the way, maybe you shouldn't be writing about this because now everyone's going to, all of his villains are going to come after you as a way to get to it.
Right.
Ta-da!
Which will be a plot point forever now.
Well, yeah, but at least it's an explanation to give her that, so we're not going to tell her that Barry's the Flash. At least now there's a reason that someone had a conversation with her about it, and not just like, oh, you should, let's not talk for a while.
And now she's twice at risk as well, because the Flash at the end, that I'm guessing was like, that threatened Joe, had the knife stuck in her throat, so now she needs to watch her back from the villains and from those who's been investigated.
And of course, Eddie seems very suspiciously named, so there's that to contend with.
Well, Eddie, of course, is ingratiating himself to Barry, so that means that when he becomes evil, it will be that much worse.
I suppose
that's one of those things I'm just watching. Oh, they're becoming friends. Oh, that betrayal's gonna suck. That's why they're doing
Especially given the vaguely homoerotic nature of all those boxing scenes.
Yeah.
Okay, so it wasn't just me then.
Okay, yeah.
All right, so yes, a lot to ponder. Next week is Thanksgiving, but we will be back in 2 weeks with recaps of the 1 or 2 episodes in the meantime. So happy holidays.